the system is expected to cross the coast and move closer towards Borroloola. So in that community, we would expect that the winds to be sustained at around 95 kilometres per hour with wind gusts to 130 kilometres per hour. This is getting close to Category 2 cyclone strength, but it could also be closer to a Category 1 system as it passes Borroloola, just depending on how much it interacts with land and how much the system maintains or releases some of its strength. A flood watch continues for northeast parts of the Northern Territory top end, including the Barkly catchment, and we are expecting that this system will bring heavy rainfall totals of widespread 150 to 200 millimetres in the area of the system as it moves, but particularly around the core, we could have daily rainfall totals of 300 millimetres. This could also manifest in 6 hourly rainfall totals more in the vicinity of 80 to 150 millimetres of rain. So as the system moves past any of our coastal and inland communities, it will bring strong winds, it will bring heavy rain. The communities that are closer to the central part of the system will experience stronger winds and heavier rain, but certainly in the broad area of this system, even as it decreases to a tropical low, we do expect to have worsening conditions over the next 24 hours. We have today also issued a flood warning for the MacArthur River at Borroloola. We currently expect that the MacArthur River at Borroloola will reach the minor flood level, or 9 metres, during Tuesday, and there's a possibility it will also rise to the moderate flood levels during Thursday, somewhere between 12.5 and 14 metres. Other locations within the MacArthur River catchment could see similar rises, and it could also be quite rapid rises depending on where the heaviest rainfall comes into the catchment. But again, as this system moves away from the coast and away from those coastal communities and the MacArthur River catchment, those river conditions should ease and subside by the end of the week. Further ahead, as this system does traverse the base of the top end of the Northern Territory, we will also see some widespread heavy rain and possibly locally intense rain over the next few days through till the end of the week. So we will be monitoring those conditions to see whether additional flood warnings need to be issued. There is a severe weather warning current for the Carpentaria and Barkly district around the areas on the fringe of the tropical cyclone warning. So as the tropical cyclone crosses the coast and decreases in intensity, we will issue further severe weather warnings to reflect that risk. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Sonia Kennan with the current Incident Controller for this weather event being Tropical Cyclone Megan. Late yesterday, Australian Defence Force assistance was secured to commence the evacuation of Borroloola out this morning. Unfortunately, upon them being available and arriving in Borroloola, the weather conditions were such that it hampered any ability for the aircraft to land. We're also further hampered in our evacuation process by MacArthur River mine being cut through the MacArthur River being rising in the area. As such, the evacuation was called off this afternoon, and we have now moved to the requesting that all the residents of Borroloola find a safe place to shelter. So what we ask for them now, and we need to provide this information to them, the bad weather means it's not safe for the planes to land. This means that you will be staying in the community and the cyclone will cross later today. It will be very windy and wet. Everyone in Borroloola needs to find somewhere safe while the bad weather is happening, and we have strongly encouraged people to find houses that have been built to code, houses that are fairly new and built in the community that are at high ground and are also strongly built for the conditions. Police have a list of the safe buildings, and that has been provided to the local controller in the community, and so they are closely monitoring the situation while they're there. There are a number of police officers who have been working throughout the night, I don't think they've slept, to ensure that the community is being advised through public messaging. They're doing person-to-person house calls. They are constantly liaising with them, and we even have some other people that aren't police officers and they don't really belong to the community as well, but they're there and they are in a safe place, and they're also assisting with this messaging as well out to everybody. It's not safe to leave by yourself, and we ask that they do not try to drive out of the community. After the cyclone, some flooding might come, and this will require the current Emergency Operations Centre to maintain vigil over the community and watch and wait and see what those conditions occur, how they react with the waterways. It'll be less windy, and the planes will be able to land. So obviously tomorrow, after the cyclone has passed and it's daylight, we'll be asking at first light that there is a quick, rapid assessment obtained as to the conditions within the community. And then from there we'll be able to organise a response if required, and that will in turn also identify any other assistance for power, water, telecommunications. Food we know is all secure and stored there. And just for residents in the community, the Alpha store is open between 2 and 3 today. Then it'll be shut, and then nothing will be open until after the cyclone has passed. So we ask that you quickly make your way to Alpha store. If you need some goods, perishable goods, batteries, whatever you need, please make your way there and make the use of that time. When the police planes are able to land, police will decide if you need to be moved out of the community. And as I said before, that will be based on any assessments that we have from the local community controller, and also some people that are expert in that area will also be providing that advice. Prior to the community going into the storm surge that it is in now, we have had Power and Water out there assessing all their infrastructure to ensure that it is in the best condition it can be to sustain and be functioning at the conclusion of the tropical cyclone. We are aware that there are also power outages already. That was expected, and that was identified earlier. So we are just reminding everybody to enact your household emergency plan now. Prepare your property, secure loose items, store water for future use, fill up your bathtubs, fill up your water bottles, whatever that you have, to have potable water in place. Check on your neighbours to make sure they're prepared as well. Know who's around you, and prepare to take shelter. And listen to any emergency services updates. Obviously, they'll be getting released more and more as the storm continues, and we would like to make sure that we will be keeping everybody updated as the storm goes through, and then tomorrow assessing what happens.
Will places like the police station, the health centre, be open for people to be able to take shelter in?
They are identified as emergency shelter areas. It's not preferable for them to go there, but yes, if they need to be sheltered in those locations, then they will be utilised, yes.
Yes, Shana, do you have an estimate as to what time you think the eye of the cyclone will, one, cross the mainland, and two, impact Borroloola most directly?
So Severe Tropical Cyclone Megan does not have a clearly defined eye as such. It does have a very destructive core that has been impacting over Centre Island during today, and as this system is interacting with these islands off the coast of the southwest Gulf of Carpentaria, that will hinder any further development into a higher category cyclone. We expect that those stronger winds the gales will be reaching into the coast, and the core of the system will cross the coast during this evening from 3 p.m, probably 7 p.m. Again, it doesn't have that clearly defined eye, so it is just really around the central part of the system crossing during this evening. In terms of Borroloola, we've already seen the winds pick up during today. Those winds will continue to increase in strength during this evening. So as the sun goes down, it will be very wet and very windy. Those conditions will continue through the evening, but going to be the wettest, the windiest and the most uncomfortable there in Borroloola, but certainly by tomorrow we do expect it to have eased considerably.
Can you just explain where the call will be in relation to Borroloola? We just heard that I think the words we used, that the cyclone will be brushing Borroloola rather than earlier estimates that will be right in the path of it.
The current track of Severe Tropical Cyclone Megan has the central core of this system tracking sort of to the south of Borroloola. As it crosses the coast, the core will not maintain its structure, and so the winds will even out across the structure of the whole of the system rather around this central core. So we don't expect a core or an eye to be passing over Borroloola, and we do expect the strongest winds to be just south of Borroloola as the system crosses the coast.
Over the next 24 hours, are we expecting any other communities will be impacted by either the intense rains or strong winds?
Certainly over the next 24 hours, as this system crosses the coast and then pushes further inland, communities and townships that are to the west of Borroloola, and particularly the southwest of Borroloola, can expect to feel these impacts as well. So they should pay attention to the severe weather warnings that will be issued. We do have a severe weather warning current for communities in the Carpentaria and Barkly district.
What is the maximum, I guess, rainfall and wind gusts that are likely to be seen in Borroloola?
So the maximum winds that we're expecting in Borroloola during this evening, as this system passes adjacent to them, are sustained winds of 95 kilometres per hour and maximum wind gusts of around 130 kilometres per hour. The rainfall could be expected to be 6 hourly rainfall totals between 80 to 150 millimetres, or 24-hour rainfall totals exceeding 200 millimetres.
And from your experience, and maybe a question for you as well, what does that bring, those wind gusts? What are we seeing? We're seeing houses destroyed, trees down. What does that bring?
Those winds that I've described are equivalent to a Category 2 tropical cyclone, so it's certainly not the kind of winds that we would expect to see destruction, particularly in a community where there are houses that are cyclone rated. These kind of winds, though, if there has been a bit of rain, which there's been a bit of rain at Borroloola in the last 24 hours, it could take down some tree limbs, and some of the smaller trees could be impacted. But it's not a light situation. There is a severe weather event occurring. Tonight will be very windy and very rainy, but those houses that are cyclone rated, this system is not expected to be a severe tropical cyclone when it passes Borroloola.
What are some of the other communities that you've got your eye on as this system continues to move west? Obviously there are still a number of remote communities that could well be in the path of this storm.
So as this system heads further west, it's pretty much along the base of the top end, so not dissimilar to the path of Tropical Cyclone Lincoln, or ex-TC Lincoln, as it moved across the top end. So any communities that are along in between the Gulf of Carpentaria and over to the WA border should be aware that we do have some wet weather coming that way. It does also mean that this system and the heavy rain that it brings will traverse the Stewart Highway, and so there is the potential for heavy rain along the Stewart Highway and some of those adjacent transport routes as well.
Just one more question here. Just in terms of the houses, do we know how many houses in that community are cyclone coded? The Minister said this morning it was like between 30 and 40. Is that going to be enough to hold the 700 people that we were expecting to evacuate?
I have had those numbers confirmed, and now I can't remember specifically, but it's far more than that. It's sitting at around between 58 and 71, I believe.
Is that going to be enough houses to hold the number of people that you were anticipating being able to evacuate?
Yes, it is.
Do you expect that people will still be evacuated tomorrow or in the coming days due to flooding and damage that's in the community?
And that's a real unknown at this stage. We're obviously forecasting for a possible evacuation, and we still have implementation of plans in place that will allow us to do that. So even though the tropical cyclone event might occur tonight, the EOC is stood up and it is projecting for the rest of the week and the ongoing events and severe weather that this storm event is going to cause to the rest of the communities in its path. So we're already forecasting for what will occur tomorrow and then what will occur for the rest of the week, where it will go. As BOM have indicated, where the water falls within the catchment areas is really going to dictate the amount of flooding that occurs within communities and the impact of that. So it's really just a wait and see for us, but we do have plans in place and we are forecasting for the worst.
Do you have a last message for people as they get ready to bunker down tonight in Borroloola?
For everybody that's going through Borroloola tonight, it's just be safe, be aware of who you're with, take care of your families, know where all your families and loved ones are, keep communication lines open. I understand power has already gone off, so if you do not have alternatives for batteries, etc., please reserve your battery power for when it is required. Listen to all the messaging that's going out, because that's the best way to keep up to date with what's going on. Obviously the local controllers in there will be coming to see you and making those personal calls to make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on. Can I also talk about, can I talk about, just provide an update for the possible environmental issue in Evacuation with regard to the manganese vessel? I have an update just to confirm that the vessel in Evacuation that was attached to the wharf at the time of the storm in Evacuation is still identified as being stable and still in location. There is no leak of fuels or oils at this time. The master is working to resolve the situation to move the ship away from the wharf area. The Territory is planning a response should there be a leak, and they're working with AMSAR to ensure that this is done appropriately. With the weather setting in the area and with actions taken to date, there has been a reduction of leak occurring. That is all.
Just to confirm, there was damage on that ship?
Yes, there was slight damage. The damage that has been assessed at this point in time has not identified that there's been any integral damage to the ship.
What was on that ship that is of concern?
It's, from my understanding, it had manganese. It was in the stage of being filled with manganese. It has other hazardous items on there. You know, you've got to consider a ship's got fuel. The types of different fuel that it will have on have got different impacts on the environment.
I understand that cyclone shelters have already also been set up in Groot. Have you got any details about emergency precautions being taken on that island?
In Groot?
Yeah.
Oh, there shouldn't be anything in Groot. We've got no. So Groot's had the weather cell has already gone through and past Groot. So yeah. So yeah.
Is the ADF on standby all week essentially for these possible evacuations?
They are on standby for Tropical Cyclone Megan.
So would they be the ones doing the evacuations if they do occur tomorrow or the day after?
At this stage, yes, tomorrow they may be able to assist. Any assistance that we require from ADF obviously has to go through the proper channels, and they've been very forthcoming in providing their assistance so far, and we're very grateful for their assistance. Hence the reason why this morning they tried really extra hard to get into the community. It took a long time for them to make that final call saying we're just not going to be able to do it. So yeah, thank you very much to the ADF, but yes, we'll wait and see what happens tomorrow. Just see where the community is and wait for the assessment to come in.
Thank you.
Just so close.